What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. A lot of people doubted that it could actually be done. And I'm not gonna lie, for a little bit I doubted it too. Whether it was possible to consistently get organic fruit from trees grown in your backyard. But I'm here to say, with confidence, well, me and Tuck are here to say that it's possible, and today we're gonna show you how. Let's go! Getting organic fruit from trees grown at home isn't as simple as just planting a tree and waiting a few years for that tree to produce. When I first started, my harvests were spotty and unreliable. But now I get consistent harvests of many different kinds of fruits. One here is the Honeycrisp apple. This thing is just incredible. It's got an amazing flavor, a great crisp to it. Homegrown, organic, you just can't beat it. Another one I get consistent harvest from is the Liberty apple over here. So good. But it's not just apples. I'm getting consistent harvest from many different kinds of trees. Like pears. This one is my favorite flavored pear variety. It's called the Tajero pear, also called the butterscotch pear, because when it's ripe, it's got this beautiful golden color to it, and it's literally as sweet as butterscotch. So amazingly good. And me and Tuck are consistently getting harvests from peaches too, like this one of our favorites, the Avalon Pride peach. The flavor's there, the color, it's a nice big juicy peach. I mean, you can't get better. We are even getting buckets full of organic sweet cherries, like this one right here, my favorite variety, the Rainier cherry. But getting consistent harvests from fruit trees in your backyard isn't super easy. There's a few factors that allow me and Tuck to get good, reliable harvests. Has this ever happened to you? Spring comes and your trees are loaded with blossoms. Not only does it look beautiful, but you're excited for all the potential fruit that could be on this tree. Soon after that, the blossoms fall off and there's no fruit on the tree. This could be a big letdown. I know that because it's happened to me in the past. There could be a number of reasons why your tree did not get pollinated. The first reason is one that eluded me for years. It happened especially to my cherry tree. What was happening is the tree was not getting pollinated because the flowers were being attacked by a fungal disease. Soon after the flowers would open up on the cherry tree, all white and beautiful, the edges of the flowers would start to turn brown, and they would fall off and die before they could properly be pollinated by bees due to brown rot. Now, to prevent brown rot from infecting my trees, I do a number of things. First of all, I remove the old fruit from last year that's still hanging on the tree. These are often called mummies, and they contain fungal spores in them that will release in the spring, so you need to get rid of them. I think Tuck wants some water. I see him panting back there. Want some water, Tucky boy? So let's take a quick break and give this guy a little bit of water, because it's pretty hot out here, especially for how early it is in spring. We gotta make sure we're keeping this guy hydrated. He's always just working in the background. That's why he's the guardian of the garden. That's why he's the king. That's why he's the boss. So we gotta make sure we keep this guy well hydrated. Right, boyo? Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. I also wanted to mention to check out some of the merch down at jamesprigioni.com, the spring merch. We're real happy with the way it came out. Grab a shirt and be a part of Team Grow. I also spray my trees, especially the cherry, with cold pressed neem oil just as the buds are starting to swell. I spray again when the tree is in bloom. Just make sure when you spray when the trees are in bloom that you do it at night when the bees are not around. Just these two things have helped considerably with pollination for my cherry tree. If you have major issues with fungal diseases infecting your flowers and causing really bad pollination, then there's a few other sprays that you can use that are organic, but they're definitely a bit more intense. The first one is best used when your trees are in dormancy. This is liquid copper fungicide. It will resolve a lot of your fungal issues, but like I said, a bit more intense and best used when the tree is in dormancy. Another choice you can go with, which is also kind of intense, is sulfur. This one you spray you can spray directly on the flowers, but both of these will harm your beneficial insects and harm the bees. So if you do have to use them as last resorts, just make sure you keep the bees safe. Another reason why your flowers may not be getting pollinated is because some fruit trees, like cherries, pears, and apples, require cross-pollination of a different variety of the same kind of fruit. So what you will need is, say for apples, you need two varieties that flower at the same time so that, say, a Liberty apple can cross-pollinate with a Honeycrisp apple. The third reason your trees may flower and not produce fruit is due to the flowers either dying off from like the wind blowing them off or a late frost coming and killing those flowers. So if your issue is late frosts, I suggest picking varieties that bloom later than some of the others. For instance, right here, this is the Avalon Pride peach. It's known to bloom late and produce early, so it's a great option if you live in a location that gets typical late frosts. Another thing you want to do is make sure you don't plant your fruit trees on the lowest part of your property, because the lowest part of the property is where all the cold air settles, and these are known as frost pockets. So when it comes down to it, fruit trees are better off to be planted at the higher end of your property, as long as they're not getting whipped around by the wind too much. If you find that your fruit trees don't have enough flowers on them, then that's something that has to do with proper pruning techniques and proper training of the branch angles, which is something I'll get into later in the video. Maybe pollination isn't your issue, and your trees have bloomed and then are now covered all with fruits just everywhere on them. You get so excited that you're going to get a big harvest, but then in time, the fruit either falls to the ground or it never ripens to maturity. I've gone through the same scenario many times before, and me and Tuck have some good solutions that I think will help considerably. The first thing that could cause your trees to drop fruit prematurely is if they're overbearing. Like this tree right here. You'll notice when it comes to a fruit like pears or apples, they'll try to produce about 6 pieces of fruit per cluster on each fruiting spur. If you allow all those to try to mature on the tree, it's going to be way too much stress, and you're going to end up with all the fruit basically falling to the ground. When it comes to something like your pears, your apples, ideally you only want about 1 fruit per cluster. So you want to thin out the other ones. It may be tough to do, but it's the right thing to do. Just make sure you remove these fruit within about 40 days of when the petals start falling off the flowers. Another likely source that can cause the fruit from your trees to fall off prematurely are from pests. For instance, the codling moth, the bud moth, and even apple maggots. I have a few great organic sprays to help deal with these issues. The first one is BT. This is the same spray that I use to combat the cabbage worms on my brassicas. This works when the larvae of the insect ingests it when we spray this on the leaves. So the best time to spray this is when the flowers are just starting to swell, when they haven't opened yet, but the buds are just starting to swell up. Again, this works on the larvae. It's only effective when they actually ingest it. Another time to spray this one again is after all the flower petals have fallen off and it's just the fruit there. I really like this product. It's great, it works excellent, and it's not super harmful to any of the bees or anything. Another one, which is a bit more of an extreme option, is spinosad. This one doesn't have to be ingested by the bugs and it could still kill them off. So I wouldn't use this one until all the flower petals have fallen off, making sure all the bees are gone. And it's really effective, but you don't want to overuse it because some of the pests can, get used to it and then it doesn't work as effectively. It's a good option, but again, like I mentioned, a bit more extreme. It's good if you didn't do, an efficient enough job of spraying early with the BT and getting rid of the pests when they were still larvae. The third option is cold pressed neem oil. And when it comes down to it, this should actually be your first choice or your first option to see if you can kill off those bugs. But it isn't as effective as the other two. But you should always be spraying your trees with the neem oil regardless, because it also helps combat things like fungal issues too. So it works in more than one way and it's completely natural. Just a really great choice for keeping your fruit tree safe. The main pest that causes me issues and will cause you issues also if you live on the East Coast is the plum curculio. This pest is super resilient, and the previous sprays that I shared, they won't bother this bugger. The one spray that I have found to be effective for protecting the fruit against the plum curculio is Surround Kaolin Clay. This superfine clay is specifically designed and modified for agricultural use, and it's made in a magnetic centrifuge to make the clay super fine. You need to spray this clay on your fruit once the petals start falling off, because just one adult plum curculio can cut into hundreds of your fruit in one day. It'll cut into the fruit and lay eggs in there, and also make the fruit more susceptible to disease. So these things can do real damage. Not to mention, the Surround Kaolin Clay also protects your fruit from other kinds of insects and pests like apple maggots, codling moth, and even Japanese beetles. So this one spray has made an incredible difference in my production of fruit. It's made it so I can get consistent fruit, and it's so fantastic because it's just clay, it's all natural, and it's really mainly just a protectant. The thing is, you're not going to get away with just spraying this one time on your fruits. You need to put multiple coats on your fruit in order to form a thick protection barrier. This way the insects can't get to your sweet fruit. As the season continues to progress, keep an eye on your trees and on the fruit. Make sure they have a nice covering of the Surround Kaolin Clay. As the fruit gets larger, you could even take a paintbrush and paint some of the kaolin clay on the fruit as it gets larger. Another thing you want to do is keep an eye on the trees if you see moths and stuff. A nice summer spray of the BT will help with this, or even the neem oil. And if you find that the BT and the neem oil aren't working, just hit them with the spinosad. The third thing is dealing with the fungal issues like brown rot as the fruit gets larger as well. So what you can do is keep hitting it with the neem oil. That's a great option to deal with some of the brown rot. But if that's not working sufficiently, you might want to hit him with the sulfur as the fruit gets larger, just to make sure that when the fruit gets big and it starts to get ripened, it doesn't start to get like a brown rot issue and then start to rot on the tree. I mentioned earlier that an issue you might be having is that your fruit trees don't even flower enough to produce fruit. This is usually due to improper pruning and not having the correct branch angles. So when it comes to something like peaches and plums, you want to make sure you prune them to an open center, and you want to really prune heavily in the dormant season because all your flowers and your fruit are going to be on the 1-year-old wood. So you have to be pruning enough to make sure that you get renewed 1-year-old wood next year. When it comes to apple trees, branch angles are very important because the angle of the branch will determine whether or not the scaffold or branch focuses on leaf production or fruit production. As you'll see on this tree, we have a lot of flowers on it because it's pruned to the right shape, a central leader, and also the branch angles are at a correct angle where we're going to get a good amount of fruit. So ideally for your apple trees, you want a branch angle from the trunk to be about 60 degrees. If you don't have a branch angle about 60 degrees and your branches are instead just pointed straight up, they're not going to have much fruit on them. They're just going to focus on leaf production. To help get better branch angles, a simple thing to do is to put in a spacer. This one already has a good angle, but you can just use a simple wooden spacer like this, put it in the tree, and this will help to encourage better branch angles. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope me and Tuck equipped you with some of the tools to be able to get consistent harvest from your fruit trees. I'm telling you, there is nothing better than going out, grabbing a fresh apple, a fresh peach, a fresh cherry, organic, when they're actually ripe, right off the tree, and just tossing it right into your mouth. It's like something me and Tuck have always dreamed about. And the fact that we can actually do it and that we can share with others how you can do it too, that's why we make videos. That's why we're here. We want to get other people growing their own food, and we actually want them to be able to harvest their own food too. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people didn't think that we could even do it. And you know, I at times doubted that we could get consistent organic fruit from our trees, but using these sprays, it makes it so you can. And using all these different techniques, it's possible, and that for me is so exciting. We want to thank one of our new channel members for contributing to the channel and being part of Team Grow, Jim Risch. Thanks for being part of the team. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing back here. We also wanted to mention to check out some of the spring merch at jamesprigioni.com. Grab a Gardening is Life shirt because, come on, what else is there in life besides gardening with the flower of life right on it? Again, check him out at jamesprigioni.com. We got to give you a peek at the little boss. This guy's been out here the whole entire time. It's a hot day for this time of the year, but I'll tell you what, Tuck has absolutely zero quit in him. So make sure you spam the hearts for the young king, the boss, Tuck. We had a blast out here. We hope you guys did too, and we hope we gave some real value that you can actually use in your garden and that will allow you to get more fruit. James and Tuck will be back to you again real soon. We out.